Hello! For those of you who are just joining the series, please go back and rewatch the first 3 episodes. They're good, I swear. Well, okay, they're passable at least. However, if you're insisting on starting from here, a quick recap, we'll be reviewing the 23 Studio Ghibli movies as stated on their Japanese website. The reviews will be in no particular order, they will be based on the Japanese language version and they will be spoiler free. So whether you've seen them all or seen none of the movies at all, please feel safe to watch these videos. Now we've already covered such films as Porco Rosso, My Neighbour Totoro and Howl's Moving Castle, so join me today as I review 3 more movies from the Studio Ghibli catalogue. The list is split into 4 general areas as you can see here. There are the absolute pinnacle of the Studio Ghibli series. There are movies that I consider great, and there's a couple of movies that unfortunately I think should be avoided. However, the first movie we're going to discuss today comes from the kind of blue category here, the movies which I consider to be very good. The film that occupies the dead centre of our list at number 12 is 1995's Whisper of the Heart. The movies of Studio Ghibli can be essentially split into 2 different types. There is the Fantasyland adventure movies, and there are the more real-life movies. Whisper of the Heart is firmly set in the world of real life, and follows a young girl called Shizuku, who is a bit of a bookworm, and discovers that there is a mysterious boy with which she has a lot in common, including a love of books. If you've been following the series so far, then you should already have your bingo cards ready, and there's a couple you can cross off already. However, besides the female lead protagonist and the mysterious boy that she meets, this film manages to straddle the line between typical Ghibli fare and some new elements. While it is a realistic film, towards the end of the movie there are some fantastical elements which really elevate this film above the bar set by most of the other realistic movies. There are also numerous callbacks to other Studio Ghibli films. I Spotted a Blimp, Porco Rosso inscribed on a clock, and Totoro on the spine of a book. If you've seen any more Easter eggs like this, please tell me all about them in the comments section. Another interesting diversion from the typical Ghibli tropes is that this movie has an actual concrete ending. Well, it's not really the type of genre that I would normally be raving about, being best described as a romantic movie. I did find myself genuinely smiling throughout much of this movie. The various renditions of Take Me Home, Country Roads is just the type of feel-good nonsense that you would hope for in a happy anime movie. This has a familiarity with Ocean Waves in terms of its style and its overall plot. However, I feel it handles everything from the animation to the characterizations a lot better than Ocean Waves. If you've watched and enjoyed either one of these films, then I think you'll definitely enjoy the other one. Slight spoilers are going to be coming up about the plot, so if you don't want anything like that to be revealed to you, then skip ahead to the timestamp displayed on the screen now. Give you a little minute now to skip ahead. And okay, we will continue on. There is one scene in particular which I feel is handled extremely well by the movie. Shizuku has found her grades have been slipping as she's given up on schoolwork to pursue a passion project. Her parents sit her down to have a discussion about the direction which her life is heading. This whole scene is handled more maturely than you'll find in many movies, animated or live action, and is definitely a standout moment in the film for me, pointing towards why Studio Ghibli's realistic movies can work just as well as their fantastical ones. Another thing I have to say about the film is you really need to watch it in the original Japanese language with English subtitles in order to get the full experience from this film. The English language dub unfortunately takes far too many liberties, not only changing lines but also changing the intentions of many of the characters, and you're just not going to get the full experience if you watch it in the English language. So unfortunately, if watching something in a foreign language puts you off, I couldn't really recommend watching the English language version of this movie, I'm afraid. It's like a totally different movie to me. Now, coming back to the Easter eggs we discussed a few moments ago, perhaps the reason why this film feels like one big love letter to Studio Ghibli and a bit like a fan's passion project is the fact that this was the first full-length feature film to be directed by someone other than Isao Takahata or Hayao Miyazaki. Miyazaki did write the script, but this film was actually directed by Yoshifumi Kondo. Kondo was earmarked to be taking over the studio when Takahata and Miyazaki finally retired. However, tragically he passed away in 1998. His death seems to have been the trigger for why Miyazaki has been continually coming in and out of retirement ever since. Whisper of the Heart remained the only theatrical film to not be directed by Takahata or Miyazaki until 2002, which brings us to our next film on the list, a movie called The Cat Returns. This film has a complicated history. It wasn't originally meant to be released into cinemas. In fact, the original work was commissioned by a theme park who wanted Studio Ghibli to create a short story based around cats, one of their many famous tropes. Hayao Miyazaki wanted to return to some of the characters from Whisper of the Heart and decided to incorporate them into this short story that was being commissioned. The commission work fell through, but then the project was turned over to the younger animators within the studio as a sort of project for them to prove their worth. It was originally supposed to be just a short animation. However, while Miyazaki is credited as a screenwriter, a gentleman called Hiroyuki Morita wrote a storyboard which was considered to be so well done that the studio turned the movie into a full-length feature film. Morita was then trusted to direct the film and created a style which is derided by some as being a bit too far removed from the usual Studio Ghibli style. For me, however, the art style definitely matches the movie. Morita took the short Flight of Fancy fantastical sequence towards the end of Whisper of the Heart and turned it into its own world, fleshing out the backstory of all the characters and creating a whole ecosystem within this fantastical world of cats that exists parallel to our own dimension. Morita absolutely ran with this story. At a relatively brief 75 minutes long, this is a refreshingly short film which I think you'll know by now I quite enjoy. I definitely enjoyed it more than Whisper of the Heart and think that this is a fantastic movie to watch with a young family. I would agree that the story is far too slight to be considered one of the greats. However, if you have young children in your family and are looking for a Studio Ghibli movie to watch with them that won't overwhelm them too much, I would definitely recommend this one. It's just missing that little something that would drag it up into the top 10. One film which absolutely does deserve to be in everybody's top 10 list, and which comes in at number 9 on mine, is 1997's Princess Mononoke. If you're a newcomer to animated films, or just a casual moviegoer in general, you might not have heard the name of this film. However, I can almost guarantee you'll have seen at least one shot from it, probably of the iconic princess riding a large white wolf. This film simultaneously upholds one of Miyazaki's tropes, that of humanity at war with nature, while subverting another. This time the movie follows a male lead protagonist who discovers a mysterious girl, and they both have to uncover more about her powers as opposed to the other way around. Plot-wise, this movie feels almost like a spiritual sequel, or perhaps a retelling of Nausical, in that the movie's essential theme of nature is more powerful than you know, treated with respect, being balanced with memorable characters and memorable moments. However, where this movie really shines is in its art. There can and has been many books dedicated solely to the artwork of the movie. This is definitely the most visually impressive Studio Ghibli movie of the 80s and the 90s, and arguably is the most visually impressive movie of the entire catalogue. There are surprisingly very few scenes where the level of detail doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Unfortunately, these few scenes do come towards the end of the movie. However, the majority of the film is dripping in artistic quality and detail. You could pause the film at almost any frame, zoom in, print it off, and frame it and stick up the picture on your wall. The artwork is that incredible. It is also an absolutely brutal film, with limbs flying everywhere and gore galore from the outset. If you think animated movies are just for kids, and you showed your young children this movie, you'd be in for a massive surprise. I know I haven't talked about the plot or the characters too much, because frankly that just doesn't matter with this movie. Its visual style is breathtaking, and is arguably one of the most important animated movies of all times, purely for the artistic direction alone. It is a hard recommend, at least to look at once. However, there are inarguably deeper plots that keep it from being in the elite rankings. Well, 12 movies down and 11 to go. How have you been enjoying the series so far? Have you been in disagreement with my choices and where I've placed them on the list? If so, please comment down below. If you have been enjoying the series, then please feel free to share, especially with people who have just began watching the Studio Ghibli movies on Netflix or HBO. Or if you simply know somebody with a lot of free time on their hands nowadays, then feel free to share these videos with them too. I'm looking forward to reviewing more movies in the next episode, and I hope you are too.